My daughter rolled her eyes and said, "You don't pay for anything." So I let the statement speak. When the accounts froze that afternoon, she called me crying. "Hi, I'm Patricia, though most people call me Patty. I'm 72 years old and I've lived in Ohio my whole life. Before we get into this, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your state or country in the comments. It helps me know I'm not alone in this. Now let me tell you how I learned that sometimes the people who take you for granted need to learn what life looks like without you." It started on a Tuesday morning in March. I was sitting at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd served my daughter Rachel breakfast for 18 years, helped her with homework, listened to her teenage heartbreaks. The morning sun was coming through the lace curtains I'd made myself, and I was looking at my phone, scrolling through my bank app. Rachel had stopped by the night before. She's 34 now, works in marketing for some tech company downtown, always dressed in those sharp blazers and heels that click against hardwood floors. She'd come over for dinner, pot roast, her favorite since she was 6 years old. "Mom, this house is so outdated," she'd said, waving her fork around my dining room. "You really should renovate. Get rid of all this old lady stuff." Old lady stuff. The antique hutch that had been my grandmother's. The china cabinet holding dishes from my wedding 45 years ago. The family photos in frames I'd carefully selected and arranged. I'd smiled, swallowed the hurt. "Maybe someday, sweetheart." Then came the real reason for her visit. "So, Mom, Brad and I are thinking about Cancun for our anniversary. The resort is only $3,000 per person for the week. I was thinking you could help us out, as an anniversary gift." Brad, her husband of 6 years. Nice enough guy, works in finance, always talking about investments and portfolios. They both made good money, really good money. Combined, they pulled in close to $200,000 a year. "That's expensive, Rachel," I'd said carefully. She'd sighed, that particular sigh children save for parents they think are being difficult. "Mom, you don't understand. We work so hard. We deserve nice things. Besides, it's not like you have expenses. Your house is paid off and you get Social Security." I'd felt something crack inside me then, but I just smiled and said I'd think about it. The next morning, sitting at my table, I thought about it. I thought about a lot of things. I opened my banking app and started looking at the account I'd set up for Rachel when she turned 25. It was supposed to be for emergencies. I was listed as the primary account holder, but I'd given her full access. Over the years, I'd deposited money here and there, birthday gifts, Christmas money, helping her build a safety net. I looked at the transaction history, and that's when my blood ran cold. The transactions went back months, no years. Scrolling through that history was like watching my daughter's entire life of entitlement play out in dollar signs. Designer handbags, $1,500 at Louis Vuitton, $2,200 at Gucci, spa days, wine bars, high-end restaurants 3-4 times a week, a $600 charge at some boutique I'd never heard of, another $800 at Nordstrom. My hands started shaking. This wasn't emergency money. This was Rachel's personal ATM. Money I'd put in there from my own modest savings, from the life insurance policy I'd cashed in after my husband Frank died 8 years ago, from selling off little things I didn't need anymore. I'd been living on $1,200 a month in Social Security. I clipped coupons. I bought generic brands. I wore the same winter coat I'd had for 15 years because it still worked fine. I'd canceled my cable to save money, just kept basic internet so I could video chat with my sister in Florida. And my daughter had been spending thousands of my dollars on luxury items. The account had started with $43,000. Now it had $9,000 left, $34,000. Gone. I sat there for 20 minutes, just staring at that screen. The grandfather clock in the hallway, Frank's grandfather clock, ticked away the silence. Outside, Mrs. Henderson was walking her little terrier like she did every morning at 9. Everything felt normal, but nothing was normal. I called Rachel. She answered on the third ring, sounding distracted. "Hey, Mom, I'm about to go into a meeting. We need to talk about the account," I said. My voice sounded strange, even to me. Flat. Cold. "What account?" The emergency account. The one I set up for you. A pause. Oh, yeah, what about it? You've spent $34,000, Rachel. Another pause, longer this time. Then, Mom, I can explain. I'm listening. Look, those weren't frivolous purchases. I needed those things for work. You have to look professional in my industry. And Brad and I, we have expenses you don't understand. Our mortgage, our car payments. Your mortgage on a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs? Your car payments on a BMW and a Mercedes? Mom, you're being judgmental. We work hard for our lifestyle. Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the casual way she said it. Maybe it was remembering how I'd eaten ramen noodles for a week last month to afford her birthday present. Maybe it was the years of feeling like I was never quite enough, never quite understanding her modern life. I don't pay for anything? I said quietly. What? Yesterday you said I don't have expenses, that I don't pay for anything. Rachel sighed. Mom, I didn't mean it like that. You're being oversensitive. Look, I really do have this meeting. Have your meeting, I said. We'll talk later. I hung up before she could respond. Then I sat at that kitchen table, and I made a decision that would change everything. I spent the next hour on the phone with my bank. Sarah, the customer service representative, was patient as I explained what I needed to do. Mrs. Patterson, just to confirm, you want to freeze the account and remove the secondary user's access? That's correct. And you understand that Ms. Rachel Thompson will no longer be able to make any withdrawals or transfers? I understand perfectly. There was a pause. Sarah had that kind voice that made me think she'd heard stories like mine before. I'll process this right away. The freeze will be in effect within the hour. Is there anything else I can help you with today? Actually, yes. I'd like to transfer the remaining funds to a new account, one that only I have access to. I can absolutely help you with that. 30 minutes later, it was done. The emergency account was frozen. The $9,000 that remained was now in a new account, safe, under my control alone. I made a cup of tea, the good stuff, not the generic bags, and sat down to wait. The call came at 2:15 in the afternoon. Mom! Rachel's voice was high, panicked. What did you do? My card was just declined. I'm standing in the middle of Target and my card won't work. I froze the account, I said calmly, stirring honey into my tea. You what? Mom, are you insane? I have groceries in my cart. This is humiliating. Use your own card, Rachel. You and Brad make a combined $200,000 a year. You can afford groceries. That's not the point. You can't freeze my account. It's not your account. It's my account that I gave you access to. And now I've removed that access. I could hear her breathing, fast and angry. This is about yesterday, isn't it? About what I said? Mom, I apologized. No, you didn't. You told me I was being oversensitive. Because you were. God, you're so dramatic. This is financial abuse. You're punishing me. I set down my teacup. Rachel, I looked at the statements. Every single transaction. Did you know that in the last 3 years you've spent $34,000 from that account? Silence. $34,000, Rachel, on handbags, restaurants, spa days. That money was from your father's life insurance, from savings I put aside by living on almost nothing. While you were buying $1,500 purses, I was eating crackers for lunch to save money. I didn't know it was that much, she said, her voice smaller now, because you never looked. You never asked. You just took. Mom, please, I need access to that account. Brad and I have bills. Then pay them with your salary. You don't understand. We have obligations. The house payment is due next week, and we put it on the account because Brad's bonus got delayed. I closed my eyes. You used my money for your mortgage payment. It was just going to be temporary, just until... I hung up. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from shock. It was from rage. For the next 2 days, Rachel called 17 times. I didn't answer. She sent text messages that started with apologies and ended with accusations. I didn't respond. On Thursday evening, she showed up at my door. I saw her through the window getting out of her Mercedes, wearing a camel-colored coat that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She looked upset, her makeup smudged like she'd been crying. Part of me wanted to let her stand there. But I'm still her mother, even when she breaks my heart. I opened the door. "Mom." Her voice cracked. "Please, we need to talk." I stepped aside and let her in. She walked into the living room, the same room where I'd rocked her to sleep as a baby, where she'd opened Christmas presents, where she'd gotten ready for prom in that blue dress. She sat on the couch, and I sat across from her in Frank's old recliner. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm really, truly sorry." "For what, specifically?" She blinked. For what?" I said. "For taking advantage. For not appreciating you. Do you know why I froze the account, Rachel? Because I hurt your feelings." "No."